are experiencing. So it's just a collection of minds focused on a task. Now, when I looked at the word Black history, there's a word that jumped out of the word black, and it was the word lack. It just jumped out. And I said to myself, there's a lack of digital representation on the internet for those of African descent. Certain heroes, certain moments in history. Because if you Google, right, Google searches websites, right? That's what they reference, in books and websites. And we know Wikipedia is one of the biggest, it's in the almanac, right, for the world. And so that information doesn't get populated there until someone does it. So someone has to feel the need to say this is important enough to be present. Okay? So, and the story says, I don't know if you've heard the adage, but it says, you know, the hunter will always get the glory, right, over the lion that he killed, as long as the hunter is telling the story. Right? So as long as hunters are telling the story, they're going to be, they're the ones that are going to be victorious in those stories, no matter what. Right? So it's time that we get into storytelling and that we make sure that the internet reflects the diversity of all our contributions as a whole. So I also looked at the fact that there are a lot of organizations that also lack a presence online. A real presence is, you know, nothing that'll blow your mind, but just something that works. Something that includes all the social media tools. Something that's visually appealing, right? Something that tells their story. Something that actually would be a destination that a person would want to return to, okay? Now, I don't know if it's from a lack of resources or a lack of know-how, but at the end of the day, we still have these institutions and organizations that do incredible work, and they don't have a website that conveys that, okay? So I saw that as being an incredible area of lack. And so I looked at myself and I said, you know what? It's time that this Black History Month, that we make lack history. Let's make that Black lack history in the digital footprint that we're going to leave behind. So the Hackathon is an annual series of events. Okay, the Black Hackathon is not just one event. It's where people come together, and it's all ages and all skill sets come together to address different problems based and provide different solutions to different areas of our community. So we're preparing for, obviously with the election coming up, so we're going to be talking about how to hack the vote, right? And so we're going to just, as these seasonal things happen in our community, we're going to be able to rally our tech community around them to be able to put together their input so that they can improve certain gaps. And we're talking about voter registration, we're talking about voting participation. I mean, there's a huge lack there, and we need to make sure that we fill in those voids. So I thought this would be a perfect platform, like Matrix said, to invite talent into the room and give them the tools and the skill sets so that they can develop into the great professionals that we know they can be. To be able to connect the dots. Maybe the gentleman who's outside probably still, he has one of the most fantastic apps and businesses I've seen in a very long time. And I think what he does is so important. He deserves a phone call shortly just to find out where he is, because he certainly is a major contributor to what we're going to do, because when the youth see what they can do, when they know what they can do with their phone, it's going to change the value of the phone. And they're going to be able to see themselves as actually being contributors and being compensated for just contributing content through their phone. So I thought there's just too many people in our industry from the tech space that have too much to give and have too much opportunity for us not to create a room where minds can come together, right? I mean, think about it. Right now I'm looking at this incredible crowd of people here today, and I'm just thinking to myself, like, what can we really accomplish? I mean, with the right motivation and the right instruments, there's nothing and there's no one that we can't reach. And so that is reason and proof on why today had to happen. I'd like to just, if I could just ask everyone just to say hello and maybe just talk a little bit about who they are and what space they represent. I greatly appreciate it. So we already heard from Mr. Thompson. Patrick, do you mind just saying hello and tell us a
Sure.
little bit about what you're working on in April?
Hi guys, so my name is Patrick.